Someday this journey will be remembered as our legacy
west.
When the cattle are bedded on high gardies headed, where nothing seems to be wrong. So he casts up his eyes to the starlit skies, and he sings his lonesome song. He's brown as a berry from riding the prairie, and he sings with an old western drawl. Singing his cattle call.
The weeks of June 29th through July 13th saw the reenactment company leave the highlands of the Continental Divide and South Pass and drop down again onto the prairies of Wyoming. The campsites at Pacific Springs, Parting of the Ways, Farson, and Simpson's Hollow would all be familiar places prior to the 4th of July. After a brief visit from President Gordon B. Hinckley, the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the company would leave Simpson's Hollow and move on to the mosquito-infested banks of the Green River, the dusty prairies surrounding Granger and Miller Station, and finally the green forested grounds of Fort Bridger. At this point in time, the wagon train had covered just over 1,000 miles. After resting a day at the fort, the train worked its way to Piedmont and finally to the Bear River. The borders of Utah would now be only 12 miles away. During the term of the trek, many joined the train for a limited period of time. Some came with fully authentic gear, others came as they could, simply for the joy of the trail. Floyd Sherman, his wife Dawn, and their grandson Kevin endeared themselves to the wagon train, driving a tiny rubber-tired wagon pulled by a pair of Shetland ponies. They traveled the trail from Grand Island, Nebraska to Fort Laramie, Wyoming. Having made their home in Colesville, New York, they laid claim to one of the original settings in the history of the Mormon Church and had joined the train in honor of the 63 original members of that Colesville branch.
Where we're from is where it all started. We thought somebody should be here.
Yep.
That's the cradle of the church, and we got the smallest team here, or did have.
I think I was born with a pioneer spirit, maybe 100 years too late. I just have always had a real yen for pioneering, I guess.
You just twist on that needle or on there.
It works, don't it?
It's got a bite on it.
Yeah, it did bite on it.
Okay.
Then they'll stand still.
With one of his ponies pregnant, Floyd and his family decided to return to New York to tend to the affairs of his animals.
A lot of memories from a lot of good people here.
I don't like leaving everybody. It's sad to leave everybody. It's a long ways back home.
There's many times when I've thought the veil so thin, and they were there being so joyful that we were commemorating this particular trek, and that I was so happy to do it because these people weren't relatives of mine that I'm going in memory of. These 63 people who exited out of New York State, they're family now.
Near Farson, Wyoming, members of the wagon train were saddened by the news of Floyd's death. Shortly after his return to New York, he passed away in his sleep.
over the trail, the men and women brought their little ones, bright-eyed, but for the most part shoeless. When their feet toughened up, they walked and then pranced and danced and ran all the way the 1,000 miles of the Great Salt Lake Valley. There was some privation, though. Some of them were taken early and laid low. But those little ones who blazed the trail and met the challenge, they are becoming the stalwart men and women of Zion.
Despite the passing of 150 years, one aspect of the journey remained consistent for both the vanguard and the reenactment expeditions: the children. Their laughter, energy, imagination, and innocence delighted pioneers past as well as present-day travelers. Their contagious smiles behind trail-dusty faces and unkempt hair were a gentle reminder of the sweet simplicity of wagon train life.
Historians estimate that there were approximately 1,600 people living in the valley that first winter of 1847. And our statistics now show us that 53.2% of those people were under the age of 19. So many of the families, particularly those that came from overseas, were very poor people, were limited in what they had. And so to solve that, they went piecemeal. They sent a daughter one year and a son the next year and maybe 2 other children the following year. And so sometimes these families took 3 or 4 years coming.
How far did you walk?
18 miles. Man, it broke my arms and legs. Well, a couple times I had cramps and there was no bus or sag wagon or anything like that. And I had to walk. And my ankle was hurting me one day, but I mean, that's what the pioneers went through.
They thought that I could have more experience about the trail and I would be more smarter when I got back. I think they're right.
My feet are all wrinkled. I don't know why. I think it's all sweat.
Most of the kids really enjoyed the experience of crossing the plains. Many of them referred to it as the greatest adventure of their life. Or they described the ecstasy of sleeping under the blue canopy of heaven, or just the thought of being so far away from home for many of them was actually kind of exciting into a new country. They were seeing things they, of course, had never seen before: buffalo, antelope, snow-capped peaks, Indians for sure. It was an adventure.
I mean, it's so much better without the radios, TVs, alarm clocks. I just prefer, wait, this is my home. I'm used to, this is what I think everyday life should be. If I could, I wouldn't drive an automobile, I'd be on horseback.
Well, it would have been hard and fun. Because, I mean, you wouldn't have shoes sometimes. And the best thing about it is you didn't have treats. And where'd they go? I think I ate them all.
Most of the funnest is just the whole thing. There's no special part for me. The whole thing's been special.
Because the kids get to ride horses and mules while the grown-ups sit around and be lazy. It was half boring, and it was half exciting, and it was half fun, and it was half dull. We found like 7 earwigs in our tent last night, and now they're all gone, though. Sarah found a tick on her bottom.
Turn around. Now open. Now say hi, camera.
We see 3 things pop up quite frequently that they mention were their fears. And those 3 things were Indians. They were very afraid of the Indians. Secondly, snakes. Lots of snake stories, especially from every girl that crossed the plains. The third thing is wolves, interestingly enough. We think about the wild animals, but in particular, they were very afraid of wolves. And people who write about crossing as children mention experiences they have of seeing a wolf come into the campground at night, even poking his nose into the wagon where they were sleeping, and really scared them.
The part that I don't wish that I was pioneer, because you lose your brothers and sisters along the trek, and it would be sad to just watch them bury your brother or sister or something. I love the wind.
You love the wind?
I love it and I hate it. I love it and I hate it. I haven't thought about everything I'm gonna do when I get home. I'm gonna miss all the horses and me sleeping in a tent. It's gonna be funny sleeping in a real bed.
We were driving down the road and there were some people standing out beside the road and they were holding up these signs and it said, "Thanks for reliving our heritage." And then a little ways further down the road it said, "God bless you and may He keep you on your journey." And it was really cool because my grandpa started crying because of the spirit. And I just thought that was the coolest day.
Angels around us, there are angels about. Heaven's arms surround us, so have faith and never doubt.
The week of June 28th through July 2nd of 1847 presented the Vanguard Company with two interesting obstacles, Jim Bridger and Sam Brannan. Both would attempt to influence Brigham Young and the others that it would be unwise to settle in the Salt Lake Valley. "It's perfectly barren," said Bridger. "You'll have Indian problems, the nights are excessively cold, and you'll grow no corn." Sam Brannan sung the praises of California. Oats growing wild, clover as high as a horse's belly, salmon in the river, and geese in abundance. But Brigham would not be swayed. They weren't interested in a paradise that would attract the world. They were simply interested in going to a place where they would be left alone to worship according to the dictates of their own conscience. Unmoved by the obstacles, the pioneer vanguard pressed on toward the Salt Lake Valley.
You know, you can read about the dust in the history books. You don't know about the dust until you've actually gone on followed a wagon train. It's about 4 meals. We thought, I wondered if the Lord allows the original pioneers to kind of walk along with us, And I would not be surprised. I mean, there were times where I felt a spirit that I've never felt. I don't think there's any possible way that anybody could get any kind of a real feel for what the pioneers went through without doing something like this. And we only get maybe 80% because we've got water and latrines when we show up in camp. And they didn't. I mean, when they arrived in camp, they started working hard. And I mean, it takes a lot of work to take care of the horses and all that stuff, but I have a better appreciation for what the pioneers did today than I have ever had, and I've been studying the pioneers for all my life.
Reenacting the historic crossing of the Green River, the modern company built a ferry which floated several wagons and handcarts from one side to the other. But in this day and age, mules were replaced by tractors. Wetsuited divers in kayaks awaited any mishaps, and all passengers were dressed in life jackets. Despite the modernization of the event, still there was a taste of the 1847 Vanguard in the present train's efforts.
After this day, they're going to pull it out and put it on a cement slab over there and make a monument out of it. It'll be a legacy to everyone that wants to go through and see it.
Oh, I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a great experience. One of the experiences that I wasn't looking forward to until now.
You do it, Tina.
No way. I don't know how to do that. No. Dude, you're never going to use this, though, right?
No, I won't. We're going a little trail crazy.
Is that good?
That's cool.
You like that?
No one else in camp can do
the pioneers of 1847, one of the toughest obstacles to overcome was the river crossing. Steep banks, quicksand, and strong currents were all to be negotiated to see people and animals safely across. Realizing the potential danger of such crossings, the reenactment company chose its sites carefully, electing to ferry or cross in the shallows when bridges weren't conveniently located.
I think people ought to enjoy this. They ought to have something to write about.
I say that's quite a sight to see all those teams and wagons going into that river down there. The water was right up to the axle on the wagon, and our team just went right on through and right up the bank. We had a great time.
I'd like to have some more of that. That's a lot of fun coming across there, wasn't it? How'd you get across?
The wagon train as a traveling community became a microcosm of the cycles of life. Every stage was represented. As death was present, so also was birth. When Shauna Dickon began the trek, she carried with her the journal of her distant ancestor, Patty Sessions. As Patty had delivered babies on the trail, Shauna also considered the joy of assisting in the birth of a child born on the trail. In Fort Bridger, her dream became a reality, and the cycles of life within the roving community came full circle.
You know, all the babies that were born out in the tents and Freestone on the road. That's her name. This is in the name of the Mormon Trail wagon train pioneers.
Okay, he weighs in at 8 pounds 4 ounces.
It has to do with prayer, and we know the Lord lives, and He answers. And He wanted this. He wanted this birth because we wanted to honor women and the sweet mamas that came across the plain and gave birth, and to their neat midwives. And that's why we're midwives, because we know that this is something special.
This is not anything like having it modern like. Let me put it that way. Come in, you two. But it's kind of something that you do. Nobody would do it twice.
Here he is. Here's the mother.
The trip has been great, but carrying the toolbox has been a special privilege and honor for us to do. And I'll always be grateful for Belknap for letting us have this opportunity to really relive a very small portion of what it was for the pioneers.
Oh, there's a newspaper from the same year that 1830, the same year the church was started. There's lots of old tools. There's a baby blanket, baby booties, there's a gown like the baby probably was buried in. There's a Bible that dates to 1870.
John McBride Belknap took ill during the evening of the 21st of June, 1850, with the cholera plague beginning to sweep through the immigrant camp as they were encamped east of the fort at Salt Creek. John died in the latter part of the night on Saturday, the 22nd of June, 1850, at 13 months. The next morning, the boy's body was placed inside her husband's tool chest and was buried in an unmarked grave near the confluence of Salt Creek and the Platte River. The toolbox had a tight-fitting lid which screwed down. This made the trial easier to bear because she knew her son's body would not be laid in the bare earth like so many others.
There are those who would underestimate the difficulty of the modern reenactment expedition. Nevertheless, more often than not, the experiences of the present company were just as strenuous and challenging as those of the 1847 pioneers. Miles of travel in the face of dust-filled winds, temperatures fluctuating as much as 60 degrees in one day, the incessant buzz of swarming mosquitoes, the desolate aridity of the desert regions, are just as real now as they were then. Despite the joy of seeing the end in sight, the toll of the 1,000 miles on the feet and legs of man and animal was nothing less than an absolute reality. The Mormon Trail is still alive and well.
I would see Jesus when the flowers of joy adorn my way, when sunshine and when hope surrounds my path from day to day. I looked to Jesus and I found in him my light, my sun, and in that light of life I'll walk till traveling days are done. I heard the voice of Jesus say, behold, I freely give the living water. Thirsty ones stoop down and drink and live. I looked to Jesus and I found in him my light, my sun, and in that light of life I'll walk till traveling days are done. I heard the voice of Jesus say, I am this dark world's light. Look unto me, thy morn shall rise, and all thy day be bright. I looked to Jesus and I found in him my light, my sun, and in that light of life I'll walk till traveling days are